I feel like my core job in that space is really as a translator. So we need to be able to understand what our factory and our non-technical team members need to know technically. And then I stretch people that are completely non-technical to at least understand what the technologists, either what they need or what they're producing.
Hello, I'm Daniel Weinmann, and this is Beyond Technical, the Non-Technical Founders podcast. You see, in order to bring my startups to life, I had to go from non-technical to CTO. I failed again and again and again until I finally succeeded a few times. Now I think it's time to share some of these experiences with you, together with a bunch of amazing guests I met along the way. And today we have Todd Youngblood. Todd is a serial entrepreneur with a passion for creating new consumer products. He currently helps you sleep better, creating many products through Kryo, his company. He's also specialized in scaling e-commerce businesses, especially DTC. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation. Let's check it out. All right. Welcome, Todd, to Beyond Technical. It's a pleasure to have you, man.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. I'm excited to kind of see what's in store for us today.
Yeah, me too. Maybe let's start by me saying that you've been creating consumer products your whole life, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. I'm kind of just one of those wacky entrepreneurial kind of guys. I like to get to my hands dirty. Totally non-technical background, no engineering or sort of programming skills, but have a knack for bringing products to market.
From what we were able to research, you didn't start out in product, right? You started doing sales and management around sales. Is that right?
Yeah, that's somewhat correct. Actually, my first real company job or corporate job was working for my uncle's company. He was the inventor of the waterbed back 50 years ago. So he was also very entrepreneurial. I worked for his company in Northern California before I graduated college as an intern, and did inventory analytics and basically try to help him run his business better, smarter, and worked for him out of college. I was kind of just the numbers guy until their sourcing guy quit, their purchasing manager quit, and then I kind of started really back in early days, communicating daily with Asia on helping products get produced and brought to market.
Got it.
It kind of started my first experience with dealing with overseas production, and started kind of growing from there, and absolutely fell in love with it. And then became a product manager. But unfortunately, the corporate track was, hey, product management's great, but if you want to make money, you gotta be in sales. So I followed the money path a little bit to kind of keep growing within the organizations I was working for.
Got it. So it was more like a career move, but the product spark was already there, and you just took a sidestep for a while, for a bit.
That's right. Yeah. So when I had a chance to kind of run my own business, then it was a combination of product development and sales. But even the sales that I did do was definitely more consultative and kind of product development related. By knowing how products worked, at least kind of on a novice level, definitely gave me an edge. Understanding product market fit, I think, was probably really my best skill set. And I think even still allows me to go into conversations empathetically to figure out how to best get a product to meet a given market opportunity.
That's amazing that you mentioned product market fit, because this podcast is for any kind of non-technical founder, but more commonly around tech and software. So this concept has been trending in software for a few years, but it's something that everybody who does product like consumer goods needs to be aware, right? And in fact, it's much harder for physical products than software, because iterations are concrete, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, and they take a lot longer, and they have any mistakes you make have much longer consequences. You can't just make a change on something. If you own it the way it's built, and to to build it wrong, you have to deal with those consequences.
Yeah. And so in a sense, it's probably more important that you learn from your experiences when the iteration cycle is longer and has this barrier that's much bigger than in software, right? So you need to make sure you do learn from any experience you have. How was your track around this, like iterating on products? So what's the beginning of this for you?
We're at a spot now where we're getting a lot closer to 100 employees. So as our company has grown, the types of problems you deal with or the challenges you face change over time. And I think that probably what your audience is dealing with is something that every single founder of a company that scales deals with. And that's how do you handle or how do you properly manage issues, be it product development, be it staffing, be it recruiting, finances, that are outside of your own skill sets or knowledge base.
Yeah.
And so how do you get to a spot where you're able to effectively address intellectually or frankly competently an area that you just don't know anything about? So for me, when we get to difficult decision points, things are going to go wrong. There's no scenario in which things go perfectly all the time. Our job as entrepreneurs is find a way to fix problems. So everyone I think has spent a day essentially as an entrepreneurial firefighter. How do you spend that time fighting fires sufficiently and adequately? And how do you do your best job to make sure that the problems and mistakes that are come up invariably are reasonable to solve, to address?
Changing gears a bit, we've been working with sleep, improving sleep for a while. Can you tell us why did you start working on sleep? How did it happen? And lead us from the beginning until the moment of your current products around it.
So working from out of college, I think in the back of my mind, I always knew that if you work on the right sleep problem, it's a large addressable market. It's everyone sleeps, and virtually everyone sleeps in bed at night, and virtually most people sleep at night. So large addressable market. I was probably early 30s and I was just sleeping ferociously hot at night. I've always been an athlete, kind of stayed fairly active, but whatever metabolic change was happening within me was definitely making it difficult to get great quality sleep. I was waking up really sweaty and hot. We lived in air conditioning. It was quite a comfortable home and a comfortable bed, but when you're ferociously hot, you just don't get great quality sleep. Yeah. So it was an issue what we really started working to solve based on personal need. What actually ended up happening is, and that's way back before there was really effective sleep tracking. There wasn't a lot of data around sleep. Sleep was really emerging as a category. Mattresses were sold as sleep improvement, but the reality is, by and large, they're furniture you lay on at night, and they're just a little softer and squishier. Where really the transition happened is when my co-founder and wife Tara started really doing in-depth sleep research. We started hearing from customers, starting with the Olympic athletes for the 2012 London Olympics, that they were using our product to optimize their sleep, for their readiness, for their performance. And that's when we started to feel like, hey, this is more than comfort. This is not just we're not solving the problem we thought we were solving. We're actually solving an entirely different one, which is sleep quality, not sleep comfort. And that's when things got really interesting.
And that led to new products, I imagine.
For sure. Yeah. And in fact, I would say we're probably 10% on the way to our journey of where we see sleep tech going. It started with some patents that we filed back in 2017 about real-time feedback loop on sleep. Even the sleep trackers you wear now, they don't report anything in real time. So if it's a Fitbit or a Ring or even Bedit, there's really not any technology that gives you real-time sleep feedback. And once we have real-time sleep information, we can actually have an intervention that works in real time to produce better sleep. So all kinds of amazing things we're working on. We'll have sleep tracking coming out early next year that will allow that closed feedback loop, and then we can have interventions that read and report in real time and utilize machine learning to get better, smarter with the individual sleep. So each individual customer will have improved sleep based on the way you sleep today and the way you should sleep.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of technological development involved in these solutions. And I imagine that after many years of working with products and technological products and everything, you by now must be either more technical yourself, or at least you can see the matrix when when people are working on technology. You can probably hold deep conversations with people. Can you share a little bit about your experience, your development as a non-technical founder doing technology?
I feel like my core job in that space is really as a translator.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to understand what our factory and our non-technical team members need to know technically. And so I would say I stretch to become more technical. And then I stretch people that are completely non-technical to at least understand what the technologists, either what they need or what they're producing in order to I need to manage the gap, to make sure that the gap doesn't become so wide that our team can't effectively communicate.
Yeah. And is this something you naturally did in being the translator, or is this something you had to work on?
I would say I had a natural affinity for hardware products to be able to understand technical terms and problems and solutions. How do you get a tool out of the mold? How do you, improve the QC process? I knew nothing about how do you effectively develop an app, and had a really hard time with it. And we got a lot better at it when we figured out how to hire the right people. And it was the people that was their zone of genius, that really understood the technical nature of how do you do things well in that space. And even still, I get the messages of GitHub, codes being pushed to GitHub, and I get the notices, but that's not going to be value add for me to spend any time there.
Yeah.
What I need to know is, what is our team doing right and according to best practices to produce, durable products, durable software products.
Yeah, that's amazing. And this is at the core of what our audience wants to develop, which is, how do I hire technical people? How do I know if that's their zone of genius or not? How did you learn how to hire software developers or software development?
I would say, we had been hiring people for a long time. So I think we had a good sense on culture fit and character. What we needed was, and this was actually a friend of mine that we met at industry conference, is one of the founders of 10% Happier. He struggled with a very similar thing because he himself was non-technical. Essentially, where we got to is we needed to find, through a referral network or someone else that can help us validate the technical skills. But in our case, we hired that was extremely technical, highly competent, and was able to identify the rest of the team and the type of skills that we really needed to fill out the suite of engineers to bring our products to market. But I was never going to be able to effectively identify technical skills because, I can't smell a rat. I can't tell the difference of someone that can speak the right lingo versus can actually do the right work.
Perfect. You got cut a little bit when you said the title. Is it a VP of engineering? You said?
Yeah.
Perfect.
In our case, that's what it was. It was a VP of engineering.
But you don't know how to smell a rat, but you do know how to lead a VP of engineering.
Exactly. So once, honestly, our key hire, kind of a foundational hire.
Yeah.
And now with the way our product is set up is we've got a product management team, an engineering team, and those have different reporting structures. So we maintain friction between product and engineering of what to build and how to build it. So once we started building out those teams, the what to build and the how to build it, they were able to kind of help continue to identify key talent and whether or not that would fit within our teams and be able to deliver on what the market needs from us.
And how early in the process did you hire the VP of engineering?
Too late.
Too late. Tell me the story about it being late.
I think we felt like we could do it on our own. So I would say we closed our first round of external funding in 2017. So we bootstrapped it for the first 10 years of the company. And then we closed a big seed round in 2017, and we took those funds. First, we went and hired app development companies and ended up with a disastrous app. I mean, it was a mess. It was a pile of Indian spaghetti code, and that's not to say all programmers or all development companies out of India make spaghetti code. But in our case, it was a fairly typical example of we didn't give them a good product requirements document. We sort of evolved through what we thought we wanted to what we really needed. And the way the code base was written, we just piled code on top of code to fix problems.
Yeah.
So by the time we brought it to a competent development house, there was, probably 12,000 lines of code, and we probably needed 3 to get the job done. So it was almost impossible to untangle. So we didn't start with the right architecture. We didn't know what questions to ask. And so that became a painful process because it wasn't our zone of genius. We didn't bring in that skill set early enough in the conversation. We trusted our partners, which I'm sure is a pretty typical story that you would hear from.
Yeah, unfortunately, it still is. And there are things in the community that help nowadays, especially if you start. I don't know if that would be the case for your application, because it's very R&D driven, right? But most founders today can start without code and only bring code to the table later on, and then in the meantime they learn how to ask the right questions, just like you mentioned. But it is by far the most common scenario is like you hire an agency. There are 2 very common scenarios. You hire an agency and you end up just like in your example, which I want to dig later on a little more on it. But also you find someone to be your technical co-founder, and then they work with you for a while and leave to work at a bigger company because the market's so hot. I would say that's the other common scenario.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the people get bored, people get restless. It takes too long and too much money, too much time, too much personal investment, too much sacrifice. I think there's lots of reasons. But that's the unfortunate reason why most entrepreneurs fail. I mean, the statistics are not in their favor at all.
Yeah.
Be they technical founders and non-technical founders, it's about overcoming the obstacles. And sometimes obstacles are, maybe you shouldn't overcome them. Maybe it's time to sort of put down the shovel sometimes. But there's also a lot to be said for the reason that the 1% make it is because they push through the difficult spots when 99% wouldn't find a path forward.
But coming back a little bit to your example, hiring an agency out of India, because I think this will help a lot of people that are trying to hire software development. How long since the kickoff of the project to the point where you had a version of the app or a version of an app in your device for you to test and use in this bad case?
I think the biggest issue is because we didn't have, even it could have probably been solved with someone on a advisor level, board of advisor level. It's really easy to get sort of sold on what's happening in the in view or or to say, hey, this is flowing, it looks like this, it's going to work like this, and not really know what types of problems you're going to face after. I would encourage, we did not do a great job of maintaining MVP. And so, what we needed to learn was be absolutely ruthless with an MVP that works perfectly in the given scenario. Don't allow for feature creep. Don't add that new shiny toy, that extra integration, and extra API connection until everything is working in the core software in its environment with the right tool sets completely. And just don't get distracted on any other nice to have window dressing until you've got a product that's accomplishing its core functionality.
Yeah, I think that's very valuable. Coming back in time a little bit, I know in your consultancy business, you were able to exit the outdoor business, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit the story first of the creation of this sector, and then this sale, because it's a goal that many people have to be able to sell a company, and I always like to know a little bit about the stories behind it.
Yeah, I mean, our story was pretty crazy. So I started my oldest company, even though he invented the waterbed. When I worked for him, he was in the outdoor business selling. If anyone does any camping, and they've a long time ago would have camped with a solar powered or solar heated shower, that was my business he did for 20 years. He created a product called the Sun Shower. So I was basically in the camping business. It was kind of close to outdoor, and was kind of touching the pool business, but not directly related. It was kind of an associated or parallel business. Long story short, I had relationships both on the factory side as well as on the customer side. Got into that business, absolutely had no money. We were bootstrapping and trying to find a way to buy product and sell product that was, and keep the margin in the middle. It was a seasonal business, so tremendous cash flow pressures, where we basically made money 3 months a year, broke even 2 months a year, and lost money 7 months a year. So really, really difficult P&L cycles. You're coming off your sort of longest drought of revenue, and you need to buy products for the next season. So very tough cash flow business. We ended up with, it was in 2013 with Walmart, that stuck us with over $1 million of product built, ready to ship. It was a wet, rainy summer. And Memorial Day, they said, we don't need it. We're canceling all our orders. And I said, well, guys, if you do this, it's probably going to bankrupt us. His answer basically was like, if $1 million of cancellation is going to bankrupt you, you really shouldn't be selling to Walmart. Not very helpful, not a great partner. But that was the scenario. And the reality is, when you're talking to a $100 billion company, they can't fix your problem.
Yeah, they expect you to be bigger and resilient on your end.
And they could handle it all a number of ways. They could say, well, hold it till next year, whatever. The reality was the same. Is on a low margin business, ship $1 million, I would only end up with, say, $200,000 in gross margin to be able to pay off my debts. Instead, I ended up with $800,000 of costs that I couldn't ship. So we had to make some pretty aggressive business decisions to keep things afloat. We went to our bank and we told them the situation. We cut some employees, but basically we hung up the phone, and within the next 3 weeks, it was clear to me that I had to put my best salesmanship skills to work and make sure that, even though we basically had no money to operate our business, had to find a way to sell more than we've ever sold before, because that was really the only thing I could sell in my company. I could basically sell our book of business. And so sure enough, I was able to get some great contracts that we were to ship in 2014 and find a way to essentially sell that book of business to an acquiring company, and exit that business. And in the end, it was a solid 7-figure business sale. We paid off all our debt. We didn't go through bankruptcy. None of our vendors got burned, but we learned a ton of lessons about communicating clearly with transparency and finding a path out of a pretty dire situation.
That's amazing. I love of course, we love the big exit because of success, and but there's something about, for an entrepreneur to be able to get out of a difficult situation and standing to create the next thing. Well, that's I don't know, for me, it's even I admire the most, because it's so common that people would just give up and become insolvent in this kind of situation. But then you cannot start the new thing you would like to start, right? That's
right, because then you've got that, you've got the self-doubt and the financial pressures of going through, whether it's bankruptcy or just the type of financial pressures it puts you on. But it changes it thickens your skin. Yeah. So we actually had a period of 6 months where we had the most of terrible things happen to our business. We had an IRS audit. We had wire fraud for over $100,000. We had a product liability concern that came up, and we had patent litigation from an aggressive competitor. I mean, all this stuff happened like within 6 months, all $100,000 plus issues. And, we were self-funded. There was no bank, there was no financial partner. There was a bank, but very tight, covenants. So what we found is, we had to work our way through it. When we got to the other side, most of the financial partners or the exit partners we were talking to, they really did look at it as a capital constrained business. Not that we were failing as entrepreneurs, but if we had a little more financial elasticity or capital elasticity in our business, most of those issues would have been solved with money. If you could make the money back in 2 to 3 years as a business that's cash flow positive or effectively capitalized, there wouldn't have been major issues. They would have just kind of resolved themselves. But that's kind of the startup world, right? You just have to find a way to power through it. And when COVID, I'm sure a ton of people, in your audience have dealt with all kinds of really challenging situations through COVID. Now people are dealing with supply chain issues, but it's all how do you manage through the problems that are presented and find a way to get to the other side.
That's a great segue to talk about how was it for you guys during the height of the pandemic? Is it the story of struggle? Is it the story of growth because people were at home and maybe thinking about sleeping better, or what's the story for you?
A little bit of both. Most of the story was about growth. So Tara took over as CEO, my co-founder. So I, back to what I'm good at, I'm really great in the hardware space. And basically we kind of felt like I took the hardware space about as far as I could take it. And it was time for her to kind of work on her leadership skills and her to run the business. She took over right around March 1st of 2020. And about March 17th on St. Patrick's Day, literally sales dropped by 70%. Like the spigot just turned off. And I think that's probably pretty consistent across a lot of e-commerce business.
Yes.
No one bought anything until they knew what does it mean for me. And so after about the crazy part is Tara within 10 days took the most radical step, something I would never think to do. It was too scary for me. She said, well, we need to start giving away products. I was like, what are you talking about? Sales are off 70%. We have like less than 30 days of cash on hand. Like, we can't give away product. How's that going to work? And she's like, no, to do right now. We need to give away product because the COVID first responders, they're not sleeping. Look at what you're reading about in the hospitals and everything else. And I'm like, all right, let's find a way to make it happen. Sure enough, we came up with basically a 1-for-1 program where we donated a refurbished product for each dual zone unit we sold. And by the end of the year, we ended up giving away $1 million in product. And that campaign really helped us spread the word with the people that needed sleep the most. We had over 150,000 respondents of people requesting, a free product or to find a way to sleep better at night. And it taught us a lesson of, we probably would have done okay with COVID in the end because of people sleeping at home and looking to get better quality sleep. But we ended up really prospering. And I think partly because of the fearless nature that my co-founder took on how do we engage in the conversation.
Yeah. And what a beautiful story, because you were part of the program that helped face the crisis, right? So apart from a strategic move that's admirable, it's a noble move that's even more admirable, right?
And we've got a lot of really loyal customers. We've been doing this since 2007. So we've been able to really establish credibility in the market, and I think thankfully our kind of customer base stuck with us. There's other challenges that we're facing now or will face in the future, and when you build a business with integrity, I think you probably have more elasticity with your core customers than maybe entrepreneurs like to give themselves. We tend to be somewhat perfectionists in nature. We want it to go exactly the way it's supposed to go because we put so much time into thinking through all the variables and how to deliver a great product and a great user experience. And when it doesn't go well, it's so frustrating. But man, I think in general, if your customers understand where you're coming from, they'll give you a lot bigger break. We had to spend a lot more time on video last year and make it personal. Because I think it wasn't personal. It didn't resonate. It was just some company giving you a lot of crap about failing, why they failed.
Yeah, and I was about to ask you about your DTC expertise, because I saw on your LinkedIn that you like helping founders with DTC stuff, and of course you've done it a lot. How first of all, how much of your current sales is direct to consumer?
About 85%.
85%. So you still have 15% retail?
Actually, it's probably about 13% on Amazon. So I think from a direct to consumer business, profitable customer acquisition is hard.
Yeah.
It's I would say the most important thing that we built our business on a B2B business because that's what I knew. So that's what I built.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not where our customers lived.
Yeah.
Our customers were shopping online, looking to solve their problems with searching on Google or on Amazon. And so I had to basically, I hate to say lazy, but I had to learn how to reinvent our business because selling to B2B companies wasn't working. We weren't profitable. We weren't growing. We were basically just churning. We were running roughly break even, slightly better than break even. When I finally understood the e-commerce math, our business grew basically 20x in 5 years.
Perfect.
And it was just understanding our math. What can we spend to acquire a customer? What do you mean there's no budget? No, there's no budget. It's a ROAS target. As long as your spend is in line with your cost per acquisition is in line with your margins, spend as much as you can. Just make sure there's inventory behind it to support it. So understanding the math behind the revenue drivers. And that's the hard part for me is that was something I prided myself in understanding financial analysis and the balance sheet math of running a business. It was just completely different running an e-commerce company.
And of course, you made it through. Like you were able to cross this learning curve, and actually 85% direct to consumer is amazing, especially if you consider 5 years ago you were thinking this is a B2B. And how much do you invest in branding versus a customer acquisition, like direct?
We had to get very clear on that. Historically, we would have spent virtually zero money on building the brand, because how do you measure if it's working? So when it really came down to, we had to commit to being profitable because we didn't have enough money in the bank account to do anything other than profitably acquire customers. And I felt like that was an easier path. That was something that we could clearly measure. If we were being successful, profitably acquiring customers, let's do more of that, because we can do that forever. Spending money on in customer engagement or the fancy things of brand awareness, to me, is just scary. We've never had enough financial elasticity to spend time and money on those spaces. Now, one could say that that's at the detriment of building a global brand or premium brand, that you have to have the right brand ethos, you have to have the right imagery, you have to have kind of everything dialed in so you can go show your best face. And I understand that. I get that. But at the same time, for me, bootstrapping it for many years as we did, that's too scary. It's too scary to spend, a 6-figure check on something that you don't know when it's going to come back. That scares the heck out of me. Even now, I don't like doing it.
Yeah, but when you eventually started doing some like branding effort or not?
Yeah, we've definitely as you look to acquire customers in offline, you need to start learning new lessons. At some point, you start losing efficiency of spend if you only go back to the same wells. So how do you maintain efficiency? You have to continue to test new channels. How do you test radio if there's no direct attribution window? You can try, but it's pretty difficult. We've been trying a lot with professional sports. We had some great press in the last week of a formal partnership with the Mariners and the Reds, working with Major League Baseball teams. Still, we take a similar approach where we don't open the checkbook first. We feel like we still try to do the hard work first. We want them to sleep on our product. We want them to want to have better sleep. So it's an authentic story. On our brand building stuff, I would say our biggest first investment was photography. Where we would have, my version was, let's go rent an Airbnb and get a local photographer and spend 5K and do a product shoot. So when my co-founder wanted to spend $80,000 and go to a real studio in Pennsylvania, it was pretty hard for me to swallow, and it's been fantastic return on investment. It's been great.
It's the crazy thing is that you have to feel the return. You cannot measure it, right?
Yeah, no, and the more the more you grow, the more you have to. Has to do with the feel of the business. Yeah, because you can't measure it, but yeah, you can feel it. The ads were just a little more efficient, and the other areas of our business were were a little bit smoother because we were investing in the right areas of our business.
Yeah. Do you have many founders that ask you for advice? Maybe like new founders that they're looking up to you in terms of how to do something similar as?
Yeah, I try to spend a reasonable amount of my time connecting and sort of giving back to the founder community, because it's hard, it's lonely, it's tough. Yeah. And so yeah, we try to look for interactions where we can add direct value, either through experience or through something that we're particularly good at that matches well with what a founder may need. But yeah, we love giving back. It's both for Tara and I both. I'm the extrovert in the of the couple. So Tara is generally, she wants to get her work done and spend time at home with the kids, and not having to put herself out there. I'm the guy that was typically on an airplane, hanging out with someone at the bar, talking shop or whatever. So yeah, but we love connecting with people and finding ways to help people be more successful doing what they love to do.
That's awesome. So one final question would be: a founder running into you at the bar at the airport, and they have an idea, and they are ready to take the first steps. And let's assume it's a consumer product they want to start. And what's the first step?
I would start by understand your math, and literally this is. I probably had the same conversation 30 times or more. So tell me the math of your business, sell for this to actually make sense. So a friend of mine wanted to do this golf kind of toy where you'd throw it on the golf course and you take a couple people and I can't remember the exact game, but basically, when he did the math that he was going to take over half the garage, his wife was going to be pissed, and he was going to sell $5,000 a year and make $3 a piece. He was going to make $15,000 a year, and his life is going to be a pain in the ass. No, that's a terrible idea. Yeah. So I think actually back into, if I'm going to quit my job or take a new job, how much money do I need to make for that to be a good life experience? And what are the unit economics that I need to do? And then if you don't have money to start with, it's really hard to get over those thresholds. Does that mean you need to license it instead of produce it? But understand the business math and the economics that have it make sense for you as an individual.
And when you encounter bad math, do you think it's more common that the person needs to pivot the product, the market, or any kind of bigger pivot? Or is it more common that tweaking the math and making sure, you plan for growing bigger than you were anticipating, or any kind of thing? Is it more working on the math or pivoting?
I think it depends. I think that there's some businesses that just will never stand on their own as profitable entities. And people just need to understand that this is a great add-on for another company. But as an individual standalone, if you want it to be a hobby, great. Have fun. Let it be a hobby. Do something. It's like something you get paid for and it's fun. Awesome. Just don't expect to quit your day job. In some cases, there can be a pivot to increase the addressable market or to just grow it slowly over time and then have it not be all consuming. So I think it depends on the situation. But I think by and large, there are novel product opportunities that frankly couldn't possibly be successful business ventures.
Yeah, and it's good to talk to someone and share this and be able to decide if you want to continue on or pivot with the help of other people.
For sure. And what are the costs of failure? For some people, if they've got a good job and they get money in the bank, they can spend $50,000 or $100,000 to prove something out. And if it goes nowhere, it's not going to be a disaster. There's other people that they're taking out their retirement savings and their college savings for their kids, and they're going to take every dollar they have to go at it. And man, the costs of not being successful are so much higher, depending on the finances involved. So I think that's definitely a part of the fear factor. And the other part is not everyone's sort of wired to be a founder. It's high stress. It's high personal risk. It's not comfortable. There's a lot of pain that goes with it. So you have to kind of be able to have the appetite for, you have to kind of be able to enjoy a roller coaster, because it's generally not smooth sailing. I'm sure there's exceptions and there's people that have just had a great ride of it. But in my experience, it's a challenge and it never quite stops. It's like fitness. So our analogy recently, it's like fitness. Or frankly, maybe mindfulness, but I like it. For me, it's fitness. When are you fit? When are you done?
Yeah,
you're not, right? The moment you're done, you're planning your next workout, right? You might be fit enough to do certain activities, but you're never like done working out. You're never done kind of progressing. You're trying to maintain the ability to do other things. And I think that's a lot like entrepreneurship, that it's a journey.
Yeah, that's amazing advice, man. It was an honor to talk to you today. Your stories of resilience and success and creativity, and probably a lot of fun along the way, together with the hardships, are inspiring. Thank you so much, Todd.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for the invitation. It was great to talk to you today.
Bye, folks.
All right. Thanks so much.
Hey, I really, really hope this episode contributed to your journey and you were able to enjoy the conversation. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app. I'm Daniel Weinmann, and this was Beyond Technical, the Non-Technical Founders Podcast.